Hi, I'm Phil Stutcinskas. I'm a model designer at Forge World and I also do some of the painting.
And I'm Will Hayes, I'm a model designer here as well, and we're here today to talk to you about the new Phantom Titan. A lot of people are very excited about it, and we're hopefully going to answer some of their questions today.
Okay, so obviously there's a very long and detailed design process that goes on when you're building a model of this size. Could you take us through how you start and where you go with each step in the process?
Okay, as I'm sure most people are familiar with the Phantom being an epic 40,000 figure, which has been around for years. So that's always got to be the starting point because it's something that's existed within Games Workshop's background for so long. Jes in the design studio was very helpful at this stage because he had done sketches to, show what he thought the Phantom should appear like. And as he's largely responsible for most of the Eldar range, he's a good starting point to go to for these things. So I began with a sketch of his, which was then blown up to various sizes to...
you did quite a few different
sizes.
sizes.
Yeah, about four different sizes, and lined them up on a wall with a load of a load of Titans and super heavy tanks that we already make, like Reavers, Warhounds, that kind
I think it's important to kind of get the kind of the relationship between the different models.
It's kind of the most important thing with a model like this, really, is to get the scale right, the size right. So we eventually came to a conclusion about which one it was. It was the second tallest in case.
You just made big photocopies, didn't you?
Yeah, literally. And after that, it was a case of making a 3D representation of it as nice and quickly, so we could get a feel for it. Which is where this comes in, which is the block model, made out of low density foam. It's just very quick and easy to work with. You can get smooth shapes, it cuts very easily, it sands very easily, you can do a lot of it by hand. So it took about 2 weeks to get this one here created, which then gave us the opportunity to compare it as a 3D object to the existing models we do. Once everybody was sure they were happy with the kind of proportions and size and shapes of the parts, we then go on to the the real model making part of the what's going to eventually be the final model. This is a good representation of that. It's the kind of first stage after the initial pieces have been created. They'll have been made out of various modelling boards, fillers, sheets of plastic shapes, all kinds of things. Basically it was making a positive shape like that. It had like a sheet between it, so that it was so it had like a barrier down the middle, so I could use a filler either side of it. I think that barrier was about 4mm high, so I had a depth to cut to, which then gave me the interior shape of this. You can see I've machined the sides, but then all the paler part is just filler. So you basically create the interior shape with a positive shape, because it would be incredibly difficult to machine out. And then you've got your guide down the middle to cut to, and the width of these to cut to get your exterior shape. But because they're made out of so many parts, they're quite a composite, you can't really cut detail into them, it crumbles, and so it's nice to be able to mould them and cast them in a resin like this. And this is a good opportunity then, when you've got those bulk shapes, to put a few together to get a feel for whether you're on the right tracks, compare it to the original block model, compare it to other models in the range. And it's not too late to make quite drastic changes then. So when everybody's happy with that, you go on to the next stage, which is taking these resin pieces, because now they're a single material, they're quite easy to work with. Then you can cut back into them, score them, drill them, to create the final patterns for what this one represents, which is the first casts of the sort of initial final pieces. Still not too late to make changes, but you can see hopefully it's got all the panel lines on now. It's got gems, all the details that are there now. And as you can see, I did this one before doing the arms because the the figure was the kind of important thing. The arms had to fit to that. Same with the head. The head was one of the last pieces I did, just because I wanted to make sure that it was the right height before, you know, deciding on the exact size of that. And this is essentially the kind of final stage that I'll go to before it goes to manufacturing to be produced. But what we do get then is our own castings of those pieces, pre-production, that we can assemble and paint, which is where it goes over to someone like Phil, who's a bit more of a, you know, dab hand with the airbrush.
How does painting a huge scale model like this differ from the techniques you'd use when you're painting, say, a tank or infantry?
Yeah, painting a large model like this is quite a lot different than painting, say, a normal 28mm miniature, or even a tank, and especially with it being Eldar, we didn't want to sort of go too weathered or sort of dirty or realistic kind of. So painting this model was quite a challenge, but you know, it was a really nice thing to do. So yeah, it is a bit different. Yeah.
Is it a job for the airbrush? Is it a paintbrush, traditional brush techniques?
Yeah, I think a model this size, because the areas are so big and you're wanting it so smooth and you've got fades and things, you could paint it with a brush, but the airbrush is the way to go. Yeah, definitely. The airbrush is definitely the way to go. It just makes the job so much more sort of fun and easy, and sort of you're not giving yourself obstacles before you've even started. So yeah, I would say an airbrush is a must, really.
There's brush painting afterwards, though.
Yeah, I mean, there's the airbrush will only kind of start you off. I mean, there's I mean, if all the guys who are kind of watching this, you know, thinking, oh no, there's plenty of brush. The airbrush will just kind of start you off and get you running. So, but yeah, there's plenty of brush painting in there, which. Yeah, there was a lot of brush painting.
On the surface of the armour, you've got some quite intricate marbling and various patterns like that. How do you go about building up layers in the paint like that?
Well, yeah, that's interesting. The key word there is layers. If you kind of think of it, think of all your painting in a sort of layering technique, then that's the way to go. So, what we did on this one first is that it was aerosol sprayed Chaos Black, and then it was given another coat of aerosol, but this time Skull White. And what Skull White does, it just takes off. It just gets rid of most of the black. The black is a good undercoat colour, but it can make your colours a little flatter and a little darker and a little deader. So I aerosoled it with Skull White, and then over the top of that, I kind of airbrushed a marbling pattern in a dark shade. It was just black. I kept it quite strong because I knew further on down the line the subsequent layers of wood paint would kind of flatten it out. So yeah, the initial marbling pattern was quite strong, and then was just laid over translucent layers of the turquoise colour, and then faded it out to the blue and the dark green.
Okay, cool.
But the actual choice of the turquoise and the blue and the dark green, that did kind of go through quite a lot of debate and sort of tests. And
presumably the colour scheme is for a new craft world.
Yeah, brand new. Going to be in the new Imperial Armour book. So yeah, it's brand new. Can we say the name? Mimiara? Don't think that's giving too much away.
I think we can say the name.
I think well, we said it now. It's out there. So
who is it that comes up with these colour schemes for the new craft worlds? Is it something that you guys come up with, or the graphic designers, or is it a collaborative
It's
process?
Generally a mix between the two. The kind of graphics guys might sort of start something, or the writers might have a specific thing in mind. I mean, this one, as you can see, was fighting on a kind of ice world, so you kind of take a lot of that into consideration. You know, you don't want sort of a white Titan, or sort of a pale grey Titan on an ice world, because it's just not going to show. So
to be honest, that process of picking the colour scheme, it's a lot like the process of designing any of the things we do here, or even the stories. We do work as quite a group at the early stage of these things to bounce ideas off each other. I think everyone has their say.
I think if everybody kind of has their say and kind of puts their ideas out there, generally what happens is at the end of it, you kind of end up with an idea or a concept or a colour scheme or a model that kind of everybody's kind of happy with, and And it works well, I think, because a lot of the problems can be kind of gotten rid of quite early on in the process.